And welcome to the Cardinals Nest, where we talk St. Mary's University athletics. I'm Dean Beckman, the faculty athletics representative. My co-host, as always, is Donny Nadeau, our sports information director. Thanks so much for watching. We are coming to you from the Jerry and Pat Pappenfuss Multimedia Lab in Aquinas Hall on the campus of St. Mary's. And Donnie, we have a full show again today. A little bit later on, we bring in the men's soccer coach, Corbin Bowers, and we'll talk about their great start to the season so far.
Yeah, it's always great to have Corbin on. I'm looking forward to talking a little men's soccer with him and just kind of, talking some more about his background. And we're talking off camera a little bit about the international flair of this year's team, and so it'll be nice to get him on and just kind of talk men's soccer and the awesome start that they're off to right now.
Absolutely. And last year they had the play of the year, and we honored that this past Sunday night, Donnie, at our Best in the Nest award ceremony that the athletic department put on. It was a great night. All of the student athletes were dressed up. And I even got to introduce myself as your chief tormentor, which is a self-appointed title. I'll
imagine that. Yeah, no, I think anybody that watches this show on a regular basis would agree with that too. Yeah, it was a fun night. Yeah. It was great to kind of wrap up the 2021-22 season with our awards like that, and some outstanding individuals were honored, and our outstanding male and female athletes, Ari Ziakis for the female, and then Raheem Anthony for the men. And as you mentioned, Jack Hurley, his goal against Rockford was our Play of the Year, which was a new award that we gave out this year, which was really fun. And Riley Hall, we talked a lot about her last spring. She was our newcomer of the year. Brady Lindauer and Emily Kern were our outstanding scholar athletes. And then our Cardinal Inspiration Award was should have been no surprise. Tim Gosson received that, and certainly a very deserving honor for him.
Yeah, so a really nice event, and we look forward to doing that every year. And we're going to probably talk about some of those same student athletes in this show as well. So let's get to some of these past week activities, Donnie, in athletics, and let's start out with volleyball, because they're off to a good start this year, 4-3. They went up against a buzzsaw on Tuesday night in Augsburg. The Augies ranked 24th in the country coming in, and they played like it.
Yeah, certainly. And you look at Coach Zitzau's schedule is very tough. It's got some outstanding opponents. You look at last weekend, they were at Stevens Point, and they played Stevens Point, which at that time they were ranked number 24 in the country. And then they also played Marion. They went 1-1 in that tournament. And then, as you said, they went up against Augsburg, now ranked number 24 in the country in their conference opener. And boy, Augsburg was every bit of their national ranking. They were just an outstanding team. And I think for St. Mary's, for a lot of the younger players, younger people that, not necessarily just the freshmen, but people that hadn't played a lot, they're going to find out real fast how good the MIAC is. And we went up against one of the best in Augsburg in our conference opener.
Yep, no question about that. Now this weekend, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later when we put up the schedule, but they do face Grinnell down at Loris, and that's a team that I think St. Mary's was hoping to get another match against, because they lost to them in a very close one earlier this year.
Absolutely, and it's we talked to Coach Zitzau about it last week, and it's kind of an odd schedule this year in that we're playing in these tournaments, we're getting the same opponents. Now this weekend, as you said, we'll play Buena Vista, who we've played already this year, and we'll play Grinnell, and then later on in the season, we'll play Buena Vista a third time. So, it's kind of an oddity to be playing an individual team that many times, but it's kind of the way the schedule had to fall with Amber coming on so late in the hiring process. So, but yeah, it's been a tough start to the conference, but I think that she's got to feel pretty good about where they're at right now, and there's a lot of young players on this team, and it's going to take a little time for them to mesh, especially with a new coach.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting a couple of freshmen. I know I did the PA for Tuesday night's game, and I was like, boy, these are a lot of new names that we didn't hear about last year.
And the one that I really like what she's done so far through 7 matches is Peyton Berg, the new libero. When you're having to replace, DJ Babb, who was a 4-year regular and probably one of the best liberos we've had in the program. And I think Peyton's doing a very good job. She certainly has a learning curve, but but I've been very impressed with what she's done so far.
Yeah, no question about it. I also see this weekend they play Knox College, which reminds me, Donnie, later I'll share some new Knox jokes with you. So.
See? This is what I have to put up with.
Later on, we'll have Corbin Bowers from the men's soccer team on. Let's talk women's soccer, Donnie, and tell us how they're doing to start the season.
What's interesting is they played last week. They played Wartburg. They lost that one 1-0 and have not played since. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing in that they had to sit for a week and kind of stew over that 1-0 loss. But I know talking to Coach Rizzo, one of the things he said was he tried to set up his schedule so that the games that they're playing non-conference will prepare them for the conference season. And I think that of all of their non-conference games so far, this one certainly is the closest they'll get to an MIAC foe. And it really came down to penalty kicks. Wartburg made their PK and we missed ours, and they come away with a 1-0 victory. So it'll be exciting to see how they do against Carleton in their conference opener. Carleton's going to be a very worthy opponent. We get to play them here at home, so that's always nice. And I think the week off, maybe they got to stew a little bit in that loss, and they'll take that out on the nights on Wednesday night.
I think it's good early on to have a week off like that, especially right before conference play, because you've had a few games to see where you need to improve, and then you can work on those things in practice.
And it's one of the things we'll talk to Coach Bowers about. Especially on the guys' side, the game is so physical that once you start playing more than 2 games in a week, it's tough. I mean, it's hard on the body, and you're playing on turf. You've always got little nagging injuries that you're always trying to deal with, and I think that you're right. It's good to have a little bit of a break. I know the men have one in early October where they go basically a week without playing, and you need that. You need time to rest and recover, and you want to get those games in because you want to play and you want to get going. And I think you need to take a look at your schedule and find spots where you can have a 3-4 day break where you can recover and kind of recharge.
Yep. Well, one team that's on pretty much a regular weekly basis now is cross country, and Grant Schneider and Emily Kearns have certainly been standing out. I think the last meet was the Hamlin Invitational.
Yeah,
correct?
and it's we talk about that rest and recovery, and this will be the third meet in as many weeks for the cross country team when they compete this Saturday at St. Olaf. So it's it's odd for them too because they usually go every other weekend. But I know that Coach Schneider wants to kind of see what he's got. He's got a lot of young runners, especially on the women's side. So, he's gonna want to see what they can do. And as you mentioned, Emily Kern, who did not run last year, really is coming back and showing her true form. And Granton Schneider, Coach's son, is doing phenomenal. He placed 10th out of 71 at the Hamlin Invitational, and that's running with mostly conference the conference field. So that looks pretty good for him individually. And right now they've got 5 guys on the roster, but not all 5 have run on the same meet. So they haven't been able to see where they stack up as a team. But for Granton, it's very impressive so far the way he's been running.
2 teams not in season, but doing their fall ball, baseball, softball. It's been fun to see them out there. I was out for a walk around campus on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. And there was Coach Winnicky and his entire team working out at 8 o'clock Sunday morning.
Yeah, so, it's crazy.
Welcome to college baseball. Right?
Their fall ball is unbelievable. I mean, both he and Coach Cheetah, they take this stuff seriously, and they really it's very important for them because they'll get outside in February when they go to Florida, but before that, everything's in the rack. So this is important to be able to be outside and to compete. And I know Coach Winnicky has a whole setup, a little tournament that they play. They play every weekend. They'll actually play against each other, and I believe next weekend, Parents Weekend, is when they'll do their fall ball games. So parents can watch. But yeah, fall ball is very important to their preparation for the spring. And the fall sports get to do some stuff in the spring, but it doesn't really have the same importance to an upcoming season as the fall ball does for baseball and softball.
Yeah, all right, let's take a look at what's coming up this week. We've kind of highlighted a few things already, but we'll walk you through the schedule now.
Yeah, it's a jam-packed packed schedule. The women's soccer team, as we said, they play Carleton in their conference opener on Wednesday, and then volleyball goes to Loris, to Dubuque, Iowa, and they've got 4 matches there. Interesting thing there, we talked about Grinnell and Buena Vista as teams that they've already faced this year. Their other 2 opponents, Webster and Knox, they've never played before in program history. So kind of an interesting setup there. Both soccer teams are back in action this weekend in conference play up in the St. Cloud area. The men play St. John's in Collegeville, and the women are against St. Ben's in St. Joseph. And then next weekend is kind of the start of the week is kind of a non-conference. The women's soccer is at Luther, and then the men will have a home game on Wednesday against Simpson. So, it's a good week for them. And as we said, it's another chance to kind of fine-tune those rosters and see what they've got. It's still early in the season, even though they're 5-6 games in.
Right. It is indeed early, but we still have Corbin Bowers here. He's our men's soccer coach, and he joins us now on the Cardinals Nest. Corbin, welcome to the studio. Welcome to the Nest.
Thanks for having me again.
They probably don't recognize Corbin. He's gotten a little shaggy since the last time that we had him here. Is there, Corbin, I got to ask, is there a point to it? Is it just what you wanted to do, or is there a...
Just a little superstition, new beard. I remember my best seasons as a college player, we did conference tournament mustaches, so I'm lining up for a conference tournament mustache.
All right.
I was thinking, you've had terrific weather this fall, of course, for your soccer season, but the nights are going to start getting chillier soon. So I thought maybe a little protection from the cold September and October nights we can have around.
And Coach, one of the other things that really has become kind of your signature when you look at other coaches around the conference, you're in shirt and tie and jacket during the games. Purpose of that? What's your rationale for that?
Little tradition as well. I always said to my college teammates and my mentors in coaching that if I did make it as a head coach, I would suit up for games. And it's a lot of the professional coaches that I admire wear a shirt and tie or suit, and just keeping with the tradition again.
You've kind of shied away from the all black though from last year.
Did it home opener? We'll bring it back at some point.
Certainly, though, what you're talking about, right, is culture, is expectations. So maybe talk about how you set that early in the season with a new team. Yes, you have a lot of returners, but also not a lot of new athletes. With collegiate sports and with most sports teams, every year brings a new makeup, a new set of guys, and so talk about how you set that culture early on.
Yeah, so you beat me to the quote if you want. We talked to our guys about the team they're on this year is different from every team they've been on, and the team next year will be different than this year. So we have to work on that culture consistently for 365 days, something I've said before to you guys. So early on, we get here in preseason and we do a lot of team bonding. This year, we actually added mental toughness training. So we partnered with Dan Abrams, the leading sports psychologist for soccer, and we've been doing some mental toughness training for the guys as well, setting just overall standards that can exemplify our core values in everything we do on the field, in the classroom, and in the community. And it starts with that. Core values are super important to us. We have 3 within our program: being accountable, being relentless, being brotherly, and so we want to make sure that everything we do is excellent in those 3 core values. And we won't buy in from the guys. So we start early on day 1, and we explain to them that the buy-in is super important through the highs and lows of the season, and that's been able to create the consistent, strong culture we've had within the program this past 5-6 years.
And before we talk about Tuesday, first 5 games, 3-0-2, third best start in program history. I mean, you've got to feel good about where the program is, especially at the start of the season.
Absolutely. We set some really high standards early on and accomplished some good level of play, and it was exciting to see a lot of that come together. Even in those early games, the record reflects positively on us, but we had to face some adversity in a couple of games, and the guys responded to it really well. We started down 3 out of those 5 games with the score against us, and we were able to come back and win the game at the end. So lots of positives heading into the conference season.
You talked, and that was going to be my next question. I look at the Rockford game, you're up 2-0, and they come back and score 2 goals in the second half to tie it. Obviously, kind of a little bit of a demoralizing end result, but you bounced back nicely from that. Talk a little bit about the importance of bouncing back from Tuesday night, a 3-0 loss to Carleton. I'm sure, obviously, anybody that sees a score like that knows that isn't the outcome you wanted. Sure. But how do you talk to the guys now and make sure that comes Saturday against St. John's that game is in the back and you're ready to go for the Johnnies, because that's going to be another big test.
Yeah, something, again, that I learned from a coaching mentor was you lose or you learn, or you win and you learn, sorry. And it was really important to learn a lesson from Rockford early on, blowing that lead, and we responded well. So we talked last night where I think the effort, the energy, the positivity from on the field, the tactics were really good. We just lost our focus in 3 moments, and it cost us 3 goals. And so now can we put together a higher level of focus during the match and use that as a lesson for Saturday, put together that same level of energy, commitment level, but then add in higher tactics, but also a higher level of concentration.
I know 2 of those goals last night came very late. It's got to be nice having Daniel Sessler back there once again this year, one of the leaders of the team, and just sort of a guy that you know is going to keep you in every game, right?
Yeah, Daniel's really stepped up from his leadership and continues to perform really well in the back line. His communication skills have improved from last season to this year, and it just puts us in any game knowing that he's back there. He can save most shots, and the 3 that went by, 1 was a penalty, and the other 2 were very difficult to make. So it's going to take something special to beat him back there. And the back line's done a solid job too.
And let's talk, kind of break down the team, because as Dean had mentioned, you've got a number of returners, but there's some new guys that some new faces in there. Talk a little bit about let's just start with the back line. What who should we be looking for? What what are you looking for back there?
I think from our back line, we've established a lot of depth. A lot of guys that can slide in and cover and play. We've played multiple center backs, and unfortunately last night Christian was injured and couldn't play, and Enzo was able to step in and play. But we've also got a freshman in Lars Burgo who does really well, and Humam Kazar is a freshman center back that's played probably 95% of our minutes. So the back line, there's a lot of depth, there's a lot of consistency there, and it's a group we feel like we can really trust. And from midfield into the attack, we've really focused on more. Can we focus on the team instead of individual names in that attacking group? So can our midfield be a strong unit? Can our wide players and our strikers be a strong unit? So I think different this year, where we're not relying on someone to score 10, 15 goals. We can create by committee and score by committee, and really focus on can we attack as a unit and not just shine on individuals.
No matter who's attacking or who's playing midfield, it's a very much international flavor with your team. And even from the United States standpoint, you have guys from all over the country, right? Yeah. Maybe touch on how you recruit and what that sort of international and broad flavor brings to the team.
Sure. We want to be able to create the most diverse team possible and try to almost, in the right way, brag about that on campus, and that we are diverse within men's soccer, being such a global sport. And recruiting, we look for diverse students from all over the country that can come and create a unique experience and share with the rest of the team their culture, their background, and kind of open up the worldview of our team. And then in the past couple of years, we've been able to add some international players and add another layer to the culture. What is soccer, and what is culture? What is life like in the rest of the world? And it's created a really interesting dynamic. I feel like the guys are learning about each other. The team bonding is very tight-knit, and we're able to break down and have very personal conversations and are willing to share because we come from so many different backgrounds.
You talk about the international flair. Talk a little bit about the rule change, because that really is kind of adopting. The NCAA is now kind of moving to the international game. No overtimes during the regular season, and then 2 overtime periods in the overtime in playoffs, with no golden goal. So it's really more of an international game, or following the international rules.
Yeah, I think it pushes us coaches to be very strategic with how we approach games, and we can no longer rely on that overtime to just create a special moment or a moment out of nothing. And in the 90 minutes become even more valuable. I was somebody that was very supportive of eliminating overtime in the regular season, and the strategy, the tactics, the focus during 90 minutes becomes even more crucial. And I think just my international background, ties can be so valuable, especially on the road, and us being able to go on the road and earn a tie in 90 minutes is a very important point we can bring back with us.
Corbin, recently one of Donny's interns, Grace Chalmers, wrote a feature story on you. I know just from knowing you a little bit, you'd prefer probably not to be in the limelight, right? Keep kind of the focus on the team, right?
That's why we did it.
But
what do you learn when you're interviewed like that, and when you are the focus of something?
That's a great question. It really forced me to find a way to continue to highlight my team, even though I was the focal point of the story. being how can we highlight our culture or what I've accomplished with the team, but what they've accomplished is more important, and it's made me a better coach and a better person. So it was a unique challenge. I do like to be behind the scenes and to be able to share my story, but then be able to quickly talk to the team about the team and how they've helped me become a better coach was important.
He's known as the silent assassin. That's part of it. Corbin, talk a little bit about. I was going to save this for my last question, but I got to ask now. It's, even a game like last night, there's got to be some frustration.
Sure.
Do you ever want to just throw out some words in Spanish that that maybe nobody but your team would understand?
It has happened, and it crosses my mind, and unfortunately, or it can be a good story, I made that mistake my first year as head coach at IIT, and there were a lot of Hispanic people listening in, and there were people in the broadcast too, so they were able to catch on to what I was saying. It didn't escalate to anything, but it's been nice to be able to talk in Spanish to some of our players too, but just trying to keep those thoughts to myself in Spanish.
That's got to make it a little nice, though, for some of your players, for you to be able to speak in their native tongue and be able to communicate, because I'm sure that's got to be hard when they're in an English-speaking setting, for them to be able to have some time where you could have a conversation with them where they're at least more comfortable with that conversation.
Absolutely. We want to make them feel at home, and I think one of my highlights of last year in the recruiting process, we have a young man from Chicago, Rolando Lopez, and his parents are fully Spanish speaking, and we did the whole campus tour and the whole visit process in Spanish for them, and it just put them at that much more ease to be able to do the whole process in their native tongue. And we're going to take that into one-on-one conversations with guys before practice, after practice, and I do think it makes them feel more at home.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have some of our guys on the team that are not from Latino background, but did Spanish immersion during elementary and high school, and they were to speak in Spanish with our guys too. So we've created a little kind of Spanish connection on the team.
So Corbin, this is head coach year what for you?
I believe it's six.
Six, okay. So now in those 6 years, what are some of the big things you've learned? Well, first of all, you've learned you got to do these media appearances, right? So that's one thing. But what else? How have you grown as a head coach in these 6 years?
I think the biggest thing is man management. As when I started, I was 24. I was only 2 or 3 years older than some of our seniors at that time, and trying to separate myself as coach and no longer assistant coach was very important. But also the benefit of being closer in age to them, and how do we manage them as players. The soccer, I think everyone understands how St. Mary's wants to play, but it's more of the tough decisions and how we explain those to our players has been super important. And I think I continuously learn how to grow to improve the culture of our team and getting new ideas. This year, adding mental toughness. Last year, we were able to do some team reading as a group, have been some of the highlights too. And then just really establishing our identity of what is St. Mary's soccer and how do we shine through regardless what's happening on the day.
You know, you've got two really solid assistant coaches, Andrew Millen and you added Josh Balsiger. Familiar name for many people because we've talked about him many times on this show from a couple of years ago. Talk about kind of their role. What do you look for from them to help this team?
Yeah, so they are, I would say, two right-hand men to me, and they continue to portray the message of what we want out of our players on and off the field. So they hold the same standards that I do. We were able to multiple times split into small groups and train the guys, and Josh and Andrew take a group, and the level of intensity and coaching points is just as high as mine with them, and the team is able to be on the same page while getting more individualized attention. They bring different perspectives to the game, Josh having been an attacker by trade and Andrew more of a midfielder, so we're adding variety to our coaching points before games, at halftime, and in training.
Time for just maybe one more question from each of us. Jack Hurley, Play of the Year. That was one of the best in the Nest Awards. I bet you remember it well, don't you?
Yeah, it was a fantastic goal for us to go and equalize against Edgewood last year. Was great, and it just kind of sparked our offense for the rest of the game. But to be able to strike with his left foot, his weaker foot, from almost 30 yards out was a very special goal.
Yeah, good.
It really was a special goal. I guess since I used up my fun question, you guys are 4 for 5 in PKs already this year. Last year you made 4. I guess you were 4 for 5 last year, and that was in a complete season. Is this an oddity this year that there's been so many PKs, or is it just the fact that you're getting into the box and forcing teams to panic, if you will, to try and defend you.
Yeah, I think it's closer to the second option where we've changed our approach, our style this season a little bit from adding more numbers in the box, and we've got some crafty guys that are able to beat their first defender and are getting pulled back or getting chopped, and so we've just really worked on what we would say is like stop, shift, move the ball, and trying to beat your man in that. So can you stop it? Can you move it? That's going to shift the defender, and can you earn something off of that if you don't have an opportunity to strike?
Okay, real quick. Yeah. How do you pick who kicks it? Now Jack's got 3 and Chiro's got 1, but how do you decide? Do they decide? How does it work?
For as long as I've been here, I've been the one to decide, and it's always been based off of who takes the time to actually train it before, after, during practice. So if I see guys consistently training it and taking the time to rehearse those penalty kicks, that boosts my confidence in that they can do it during the game. And Jack and Chiro have been guys to do it lately. And it was just benefit that Jack was not in the game, and we gave Chiro an opportunity to do so against Martin Luther.
Well, hopefully your prospective student athletes that you're looking at for next year heard that and will start working on their penalty kicks. So, all right, Corbin Bowers, the head men's soccer coach, thanks for joining us on the Cardinals
Thanks,
Nest.
Corbin.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we want to thank A.J. Ruskowski, our producer for the show.
Saved us again.
Saved us again. And thanks to you for watching. This is the Cardinals Nest.